One really good way that I like to just demonstrate Lytics is to just focus on the profile and start simple. We can open an incognito window here, and I'm just going to go to our Umami site as an example. And then we have a Chrome extension that all this does is essentially surface the information that Lytics is surfacing back to your browser for you. So we'll get into it. Our Drupal module allows you to install the tag and kind of access Lytics. But at the end of the day, we're learning things about a user. We're enriching that profile with a bunch of insights, which we'll talk about. And then we're surfacing all of those insights, however you've been configuring, back to the browser. The Chrome extension just makes it a bit easier to kind of consume and see what's happening in real time. So if I open that up, I visited this page exactly one time. Obviously, you're not going to have a big sort of history of understanding where I came from and what I do, what I'm interested in, how I behave, all of those kind of things. But minute one, day one, second one, we're starting to build an anonymous profile. You see that profile on the right hand side here. We'll dive into the specifics here. As I browse around, again, in real time, you'll see that profile evolve and build. Two things happen near immediately that are really unique and proprietary to Lytics. So on one hand, we surface a set of behavioral scores, behavioral attributes that represent the full kind of understanding of that particular consumer. In this case, where it's just web data and that's the only interaction, it's going to be limited. But you can imagine how once we connect your email service provider, when it's offline data, these signals become stronger and stronger for you to sort of leverage. But at a high level, we surface 9 behavioral scores, and they're meant to be a simple signal so that you're not in there defining specific rules or like I've visited this page and I've done this thing, so that means this. It's meant to be much more turnkey, much more intuitive, and surfaces things like momentum. How fast are they moving? How is that building? The frequency, is it somebody that comes back often or not so much? These signals become very useful. One, because they're turnkey. Two, because it makes it easy to leverage. So for instance, if I'm a user that has a low frequency but a high momentum, I, as a marketer, have a very small window of opportunity to actually get in front of them, get them to convert, get them to become an advocate, because there's somebody who doesn't come very often, but for whatever reason, something in the market, something in the world is driving that sort of increased engagement. Lytics' behavioral signals, which we'll go into more detail on later, are a way to sort of unlock that out of the box. And then the second thing that you see at the bottom start to build is our interests. Our interest engines are a very, very powerful tool. And much like our behavioral scores, they work out of the box with zero configuration. If you have an existing taxonomy, if you have a sophisticated strategy, I promise you we have tools and ways to integrate and leverage all of that. So it's not only simple, it can be complex as well. But for most customers, they install our tag. In this case, you would activate the Drupal module, and we're going to start to build up two things. One, we're going to go out and proactively categorize and analyze your content. We can actually see that happen in the UI if I go over here to our interest engines. So Lytics goes out, we scrape that content, we send it through NLP, we do through image analysis to understand what that content really represents. What is it about? It's not necessarily what an independent user says or thinks about it. It's programmatically from a variety of different sources what we have grown to kind of understand about that piece of content. And we ultimately build a content and a topic graph for you out of the box with zero lift. That's going to unlock a couple of different things. On one hand, and we can actually, I think we'll show an example. So in this example, we can actually pull up the fiery chili sauce. If I search for that document, you can see, if I click on the right one, what Lytics is starting to populate out of the box. So we'll pull up the topics and the scores and all that kind of stuff. We'll have that refined, but demonstrate what we're actually doing to categorize and classify that content. That alone is very powerful when it comes to content strategy, just understanding what content you have, the type of content, what kind of gaps you may have in that topic graph. But more importantly, we're able to associate then those topics with individual users as they engage. So back on the umami side, as Mark clicks on the borscht pork ribs, we associate his level of interest with the particular topics for that piece of content with him. And then as he continues to gauge, you start to see those scores ebb and flow to really understand what he has an interest in at the topic level, not just at sort of the page level. If we jump into